Hello everybody, my name is Aomar Bariz. Thank you, I appreciate. I'm a hybrid cloud solution architect at IBM. My work is mainly to work with on data and helping my customer to move to cloud. I think that you have read the IBM actuality based on the acquisition of Red Hat. We'll talk about that a little bit later to understand how Red Hat will integrate and cooperate in IBM organization, which is, I think, a great news for IBM and also for Red Hat and for the market. But before doing that, I will take some minutes to give you some insights of what we do at IBM on open source. Okay, so most of you may know or may not know that IBM is a long contributor on the open source community and market. We started with Linux in 1999, where IBM involved many techies and people and money to push on the Linux Foundation. We also pushed a lot on an Apache, which was one of our main projects. We pushed a lot on Eclipse. So Eclipse was an IBM solution what has been given to the community, where IBM continued to contribute at the level of 40% on Eclipse. Okay, so you had a lot of other projects where IBM put on. One of the main one was Spark and Hadoop, where we took the open community of Hadoop and we put some tools for our customer. It was not on the subscription model, but it was something like that. And now we are in a cloud-native era where we invest a lot on Kubernetes, Docker, and where we are a very big partner and stakeholder in the cloud-native computing foundation with people, with the knowledge, and with the investment in community. So, as you can see in this slide, and I think it's not the end of the road, IBM is pushing a lot on open source, is investing a lot of open source, and is also a main contributor in many projects. So let's go backward on what happened in 2018. So 2019 goes on with a lot of new things. So at IBM, we have a developer community, which is an open. So if you go to the URL, which is written on my slide, we'll see what I am saying there. So IBM is about 340,000 people around the world. Let's say that a quarter of the company is open source driven, which means that we have many of our techies, like me, that are doing hands-on on open source, that are contributing on open source, and then that are also have pushing open source solution to our customers. Why we do that? Because most of our customers today are using open source in their project, which also means that we need to integrate our solution with open source component, or either we should work on open source. That's one of my points. So IBM is giving to his employee recognition on open source project and on open source contribution. So we give 300 cash award in 2018 for our techies. We also have many open source solutions that we use for managing our cloud infrastructure. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about Prometheus. We'll talk about Grafana. We also use the Elk Stack as a main tooling in our solution. And furthermore, we also consume many of those open source in our packaging. Some of my customers says to me that IBM is transforming itself to an open source integrator. Somehow it's true, because most of our customers today are creating, developing, and pushing in production open source project. So we need to adapt and reinvent ourselves. Going forward, you can see that we have more than 900 persons involved in community. Okay, it's not the number that Red Hat have, because they have 6,500 people doing that, but it's in a good way. Just meaning that we are really doing a shift, an important shift on that. That's important to know. Going forward, there are waves on the market. So you have the waves on cloud, cost, then you have innovation and then transformation. In the cloud, you also have waves. In open source, you have waves. So the waves of open source is that, and it was the third one, that all the cloud providers today are providing most of the open source component that you need. So most of them are creating technology, giving to the market, like do IBM, for example. And some of them also use that for their in-house tooling, as we do, okay? And what we see as a fourth wave is that even though our customers are starting today to contribute to open source. What does it mean? It means only that the market is changing. That's the main point. The other thing that we see also is the community are leveraging their power to put on their on the business of their employee, on the business market, a different way to think and a different way to make the choices on the technology. That's really important, you know, because one of the part of my job is to go to communities. You know, I was in a KubeCon 3 weeks ago in Barcelona, and it's amazing to see the effervescence that people and techies have on those technology. And all those techies are working for a big company, current company, or a 500 Fortune and so on. So, which means that today we have seen a shift in the way that the solutions are chosen by our customer. In the past, we have that top-down approach, which is now dead. Most of the choice approach is bottom-up. So it means that we are, as techies, influence the way that our customer is choosing the solution and how they operate in their technical choice. Going back to IBM and what we do on the market, you can see here some projects that are today really the mainstream, the foundation of our open source history and forward. So I talked about Linux, I talked about Eclipse. So you have Hyperledger, which is one of the main projects that we are investing on. Hyperledger is the blockchain DNA that we use for our customer. I invite you to go to the web and Google Hyperledger IBM. You'll see how many projects we have today on blockchain, which is growing very fast. We also have Docker, which is one of the main key stone of the transformation of our customer. We have Node.js and Cloud Foundry. So we still have some customers that are using Cloud Foundry, but they are most of them moving to Kubernetes today. So what do? We help them to work on the subscription. We make some commits. We also increase the ecosystem. We push people on community, and by the end, we also work on the governance, which meaning that we are participating at a higher level on this governance community. The CNCF. So CNCF 2019, 7,700 people there. IBM was one of the main sponsors there. We make a lot of announcements regarding Kubernetes, Docker, and other components that we have also on this communities. We are involved since the beginning, which means that we were involved on many projects. We have at IBM around 5,000 people working and involved in CNCF following the project, which is quite important. So this community is really fast growing. And also what we did at IBM is we implement the CNCF map. The CNCF map is explaining you, if you want to create a cloud native project, what are the components that you need to use to be CNCF compliant. So I think that my picture was a little bit cut, but if you look at the beginning, you'll see many components that we use today, and most of them are open source. I talked about Kubernetes, I talked about Docker, we also have Helm, we have FlyND, we have Prometheus, Grafana, Linkerd. Most of those projects today are are at the heart of our solutioning that we push for our customer. The main message here for me today is IBM is not seen in the market as an open source company, and that's wrong, because, and we'll talk about that later, most of our customers today that have Innovate use our solution for innovation based on IBM support on this technology. The key factor of IBM on open source is that we bring a coherence on this tooling, and we bring them a support on the overall package, which is really a differentiator for the market, because most of the customers today are not using that, and they are using pieces, and they always struggle when they need to integrate and make that working in production. And that's where, with our more than 100 of years of experience, we can bring value to customers. So let's give some news. So I talked about the Linux Foundation. We also have involved in the OpenGS. We also have in CD Foundation, GraphQL. So all these new initiatives today are most of them around CI/CD initiative, which means that we push our people, we push the communities, we involve them on the project. We have very specific people working there. The GraphQL Foundation is quite important also for us. We invest a lot on GraphQL, on those technology. And also, we also work on OpenGS. So what's the goal of IBM for that? Is to push all this evolution on Kubernetes standard. So Kubernetes is the standard today for microservices and application modernization. We also push to evolve Tekton. So Tekton is one of our one of the open source project for the pipeline on CI on Kubernetes. We push that. It also involves to work with Knatives for the serverless part, and also it integrates with IBM Cloud and all other solutions, which means that using this kind of solution is quite interesting, because it brings to you the value to work with the solution in an open source platform with the involvement of an enterprise company that have already tested that and offer it as a service for this customer. So we have created a Tekton dashboard, which has been built by IBMers. We also work on pipelining on Tekton. At the end of the day, we also worked on and enables Jenkins on our platform. So Tekton, it's important. So I already talked about it. So the same slide. So GraphQL is important. So we do the same on GraphQL. We have involvement there. We have created microservice. We also work on AI services that could be used for the community that are already available. I think most of you have already heard about Watson. So those AI services based on Watson are already offered in the open community, and there are other projects. So let's finish by the latest and most important information for you is the acquisition of Red Hat. So as you know, IBM has decided to acquire Red Hat in November 2018. What does it mean for communities? It means just good news. Why saying that? First of all, Red Hat will continue to be an independent community. The business model of Red Hat today is 6,500 people working on community. That will continue. And with adding the value of IBM, it will only bring more people to work on this community. That also means that IBM is doing a transformation on the way that he's working with his customer. As I explained during my presentation, most of our customers today are using open source to create solutions, to create real production systems. So that will continue. We do that, we just will increase that power and leverage the open source market to our customer and bring it into the enterprise. Most of our customer today comes to me saying, okay, Mr. Bariz, I need you because I have some problem. I'm struggle to put in production my open source project. How could you help me? What are the solutions that you are integrating to help me to do so? So with Red Hat, with our solution, we create that kind of packaging that help them to put that in a secure way in production. Because if you look at all the presentation and all the interesting I see since the beginning of the afternoon, there are too much components which most of the time create too much complexity. And I think that's something that nobody wants to take about. But as a software vendor where I come from, after 21 years of experience, I could say that that's one of the main problems of the business today, is the integration of this complexity. And to avoid to have too much pieces of open source running everywhere, they need to have community that puts these things together. So one of our main purpose during the next upcoming years with Red Hat is to recreate the same model. That open source community model will bring together to create enterprise solution with subscription, which also means that the software model, the licensing will change. I think that's not something that we used to talk here, but that's also important because most of the go-no-go decision on software acquisition are based on that model, and that's also what we'll bring. So I think there is 2 or 3 minutes left. I will 2 minutes. So if you have any question regarding Red Hat and so on, just please take the time to do so. I would be really happy to answer those questions. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.